People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times, as opposed to once. They end up using more water.
Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Thursday, February 10th, 2022. Welcome to day 387. Inflation in the United States accelerated to 7.5% in January compared with a year ago, the steepest year-over-year increase since February 1982. It was the 8th straight month that inflation has been above 5%, despite claims by Federal Reserve Chair Jeremy Powell that inflation would only be transitory. On a monthly basis, prices rose 0.6% from December to January, and over the past 12 months, the United States economy has added nearly 7 million jobs, while average hourly earnings have climbed by 5.7%. On an annual basis, however, inflation-adjusted average hourly earnings fell by 1.7% in January from a year prior, making that the 10th straight year of decline. Biden, meanwhile, said that, quote, while today's report is elevated, forecasters continue to project inflation easing substantially by the end of 2022, end quote, adding that there are signs that we will make it through this challenge. Following the inflation report, Joe Manchin assailed the prospect of Biden's roughly $2 trillion social and climate change package, saying that Congress shouldn't add more fuel to an economy already on fire. Manchin effectively killed the package in December after announcing that he wouldn't support the legislation over concerns about inflation and the cost of the bill. Quote, it's beyond time for the Federal Reserve to tackle this issue head on, Manchin said. The president of the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, James Bullard, meanwhile, said that he supports raising interest rates by a full percentage point by July, calling it a sensible response to a surprise inflationary shock. Moving on, White House call records do not reflect the calls made to or from Trump during the January 6th attack on the Capitol. While there is no evidence that any official records were tampered with or deleted, the House committee investigating the attack says they're finding few records of calls between Trump and lawmakers that have publicly been reported in the hundreds of records from the National Archives, which were turned over after the Supreme Court ruled against Trump's efforts to block their release. The committee, however, is still waiting for additional records from the National Archives and from phone companies which have been subpoenaed for the personal cell phone records of more than 100 people, including Eric Trump and Kimberly Guilfoyle. Meanwhile, Trump reportedly tried to flush documents that he had ripped into pieces down the White House toilet, according to White House staff who periodically found Trump's toilet clogged with paper. Trump denied that he may have flushed official documents down a White House toilet and called the allegations another fake story, which was, quote, categorically untrue and simply made up by a reporter in order to get publicity for a mostly fictitious book, end quote. The details about the document flushing come from New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman's forthcoming book called Confidence Man. Earlier this month, the National Archives did say that Trump had ripped up some White House documents while he was in office. The agency also recently asked the DOJ to investigate his handling of White House records after finding documents that were clearly marked as classified, including top-secret level documents, inside the boxes that Trump took from the White House when he left office. Moving on, the Biden administration plans to allocate $5 billion over the next 5 years to build 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations, 5 times the number that are currently spread across the United States. The money, which was approved as part of the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure package, will fund the creation of a, quote, network of EV charging stations along designated alternative fuel corridors, particularly along the interstate highway system, end quote. In the Senate, lawmakers passed legislation to end the use of forced arbitration to resolve workplace sexual harassment and assault claims. The reform guarantees that victims of workplace sexual harassment or assault are free to pursue lawsuits in court. More than 60 million Americans are subjected to third-party arbitration clauses in their employment contracts. The bipartisan legislation was passed unanimously by a voice vote, and it now heads to Biden's desk to be signed into law. And finally, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene accused House Speaker Nancy Pelosi of leading the Gazpacho police, apparently confusing the cold tomato-based soup with the Gestapo, the secret Nazi police force. During an interview, Greene said Pelosi was using Capitol Police as political pawns and was, quote, sending them into our offices, end quote, to investigate, referring to a complaint from Representative Troy Nehls, who claimed that Capitol Police entered his office. The Capitol Police Chief, however, clarified that an officer entered Nels's office because the door had been left open and unsecured without anyone inside after hours. And in the polls, CNN says 56% of Americans say they have little to no confidence that American elections reflect the will of the people, up from 52% in September and 40% in January 2021. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditas.